Alright, this video is for the Blended Algebra 2 class, Unit 1, which is Functions. This is the introduction to Lesson 2. Lesson 2 is on Domain and Range. This video is for the Inequalities and Interval Notation review. So we're going to do number 1 on this video. For number 1, we're going to do A, C, and E. If you need help on any of the problems that are not on this video, you can check your answers on Canvas on the key, ask your teacher for help. Alright, so for number 1, it says, for each of the following, graph the portion of the number line described by the inequality. Then write the interval notation. So here, it's important to make sure you know what the inequality is saying. X is greater than 4. Alright, so we have a dot at 4. It's going to be an open dot because we have a strict greater than inequality. Then you shade the portion of the number line that is greater than 4. So go up this way and make your graph that way. Now, when you do your interval notation, you put an endpoint on the number. So we have an endpoint at 4. There's an open dot at 4, so that gets a parenthesis. Then you work to the right. There's an arrow on the right, which means that your graph is going to infinity. And infinity always gets a parenthesis. Now let's go down to C. C says x is less than or equal to 8. Less than or equal to means you're going to use a closed dot at the value of 8. Now the inequality says less than or equal to, so we shade the numbers on our number line which are less than 8, which are all the values to the left. Now this time when you do your interval notation, you start on the left. There is an arrow on the left going towards negative infinity. Negative infinity always gets a parenthesis. Then you look to the right. On the right here, we have a dot, a closed dot at 8, which means you're going to put a square bracket on the 8. Now we're going to do E. This is a compound inequality. This compound inequality says negative 4 is less than x is less than or equal to 4. Well, I'm going to put dots on my number line at negative 4. Negative 4 is going to get an open dot because it's a less than symbol. And at positive 4, which gets a closed dot. Since x is in the middle, we are going to shade in the middle of those two dots. Now for our interval notation, we write our endpoints, negative 4 and positive 4. Negative 4 is an open dot, so it gets a parenthesis. Positive 4 gets a square bracket. So that's number 1. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is asking you to now write an inequality given the number line and then do the interval notation. So what we only have one endpoint on this problem. That endpoint's at negative 1. So we're going to compare x to negative 1. Because this number line is shading to the left of the dot, that means all the x values are less than negative 1. And because you have an open dot, you're going to keep it as a strict inequality. Our interval notation always starts on the left. We have an arrow on the left, which means we are going to negative infinity. Infinity always gets a parenthesis. And our interval goes up to negative 1. Since there's an open dot, you're going to put a parenthesis. When I look at the next problem, this also only has one endpoint at 4. We have a closed dot at 4, and our arrow is going to the right of 4. So to compare x and 4, we have to remember that anything to the right is greater than the value of 4. And since it's a closed dot, it's going to make it greater than or equal to. Your interval notation starts on the left. We start here at 4. 4 has a closed dot, so it gets a square bracket. And the arrow heading to the right is going to infinity, which always gets a parenthesis. So those are the ones for number 2 on the video. Now let's look at number 3. We're going to finish by doing A through D, where you have to write the interval notation given the inequality. So remember, when you write this interval notation, you start with the endpoints. Here we have endpoints at negative 5 and 3. So you put those down, put a comma between, and then look at the dots. Negative 5 has an open dot, which has a parenthesis. 3 gets a closed dot. For B, notice that the entire number line is shaded. That's your all real numbers. And for all real numbers, on the left our arrow is going to negative infinity. So we'll put a parenthesis with that. And on the right, our arrow is going to positive infinity. All real numbers means any number that's positive or negative. All right, in C, we have an open dot at -9 and another open dot at 2. So we're going to use those two numbers in your interval. And because they both have open dots, we're going to put a parenthesis on either side. All right, finally for D, our endpoints are at -5 and +4. Those are the two values in my interval. -5 is a closed dot, so you're going to put a square bracket on -5, and 4 has a parenthesis because of the open dot. All right, if you need any extra help on this practice, make sure to check the key posted on Canvas or ask your teacher for help.